Hi guys, welcome back. We're on lesson 2, module 6, problem number 3. This is number line K, and it has 12 units on it. So we're still working with number lines, and we're still working with graphing on a coordinate plane. This is not a full graph, as in quadrant 1. It is instead just what might be called the x-axis, right? This is a single number line. And it's interesting, it's running from right to left. Unusual, we don't always see number lines drawn in that direction, but a numbered line nonetheless. We can see that this number line, there should be a couple of things you observe about it. In fact, pause the video right now and notice two things about this number line. You may have noticed that this number line counts up with the whole number values marked at every 2 units 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. But in between each of these units, 2 and 4, these whole number units, are hash marks that divide or partition this number line into even smaller parts. And it's going to be up to us to figure out what those parts are. I'm sure that'll come up in one of the questions. If I were you, I would count the number of hash marks in between the given values, the 0 and 2 or 2 and 4. I would simply count the number of hash marks to find out what this has been divided into. 1, 2, 3, 4. Remember never to count 0. You count the distance between 0 and the first hash mark as 1. Right? Here's 1, and then 2, 3, and 4. So between 0 and 2, there are 4 spaces, 4 hash marks, okay? And we have to use that information to help us determine how great a distance it is between each hash mark. What's the value of this hash mark and this hash mark if this is 0 and this is 2? Let's go in order. Plot a point at 1 and label it A. I'm going to get my drawing tool out and I am going to find 1 and I'm going to label it A. Well, if this is 0 and this is 2, then halfway in between 0 and 2 is 1. Where is that? Well, 1, 2 from the 0 and 1, 2 hash marks from the 2 tells me that this point right here is exactly halfway between 0 and 2. I'm going to put a dot on it, or a point, and I'm going to label it A. Oh, I'm not going to label it A. I'm going to label it 1. Sorry. No, I am going to label it A. My apologies. This is point A. And that's exactly halfway between 0 and 2. And that's a clue, guys. So the whole numbers here in between these two whole numbers will always be the halfway mark. So that tells me that this is 3, and this is 5, and this is 7, and so on and so forth. Now I want to label a point that lies at 3.5. All right, well, I just found that the odd number here is going to be in between, halfway in between the two even numbers. So I have the whole number 2 and the whole number 4. So 3 is going to be halfway in between here. And that is 1, 2, and 1, 2. So that's this point right here. So that's 3. So where would 3.5 be? You guessed it, right next to it. So this is 3.5, and we're going to label this as point B. So now we know that every single one of these hash marks has a value of 1/2. What about labeling point C, whose distance from 0 is 8 units further than B? Okay, so let's count over. 1 unit, 2 units, 3 units, 4 units, 5, 6, 7, 8. This is point C because it is 8 units further away from 0 than B is. So we needed to start at B and count over 8 units. Finish off the next